Can I just check with the Secretariat whether we have a quorum?
Good morning, Chair and members on the platform. Chair, we do correct. Shall I proceed with doing the roll call, Chair?
Yes, please.
Ms. Mwakse? Ms. Mwakse is on the platform, Chair, but maybe she just have a challenge. Mr. Mumbiani?
Morning, Chairperson. Morning, colleague. I'm present. Thank you.
Good morning.
Prince Burns Nxamashe?
Molo Slalo Namalungu. Dikho.
Good morning.
Chair, Mr. Malamakia?
Morning, Chairperson. Morning, colleagues. I'm present. Thank you.
Good morning.
Chair, Mr. McPherson?
I'm here. Thank you.
Good morning.
Chair, Mr. Mulder, Chair?
Good morning, Chair. Goeiemôre almal.
Goeiemôre.
Chair, Ms. Mutawung?
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, everyone. I'm present.
Good morning.
Chair, Mr. Cuthbert?
Morning, Chairperson.
Good morning.
Chair, those are all the members currently on the platform. My procedure.
Thank you. Can we then have the agenda for today's meeting? Thank you. Or do we have any apologies, Committee Secretary?
Chair, we have an apology from Mr. Thrink. He's on a flight at the moment, so he will join as soon as he can. And I'm assuming that Dr. Twakus may still join us, Chair. I haven't received any apologies.
Thank you. Can we request a mover and a seconder for the adoption of this agenda?
Mr. Mbayani raised his hand, Chair.
Honorable Mbuyani.
Morning, Chair. Thanks for the opportunity. I propose that we adopt the agenda as reflected.
Any seconders?
Ms. Mutahung, Chair.
Honorable Mutawung.
Thanks, Chair. I second the adoption of the agenda.
Thank you. Agenda is duly adopted. Can we just have the agenda again? Sorry. Okay. So, yeah. So the next item is the formal consideration of the report on the copyright amendment bill. And then after that, we'll look at the formal consideration of the report on the Performers Protection Amendment Bill. So we resolved at our meeting on the 8th of June to afford parties the opportunity to submit minority views for the committee's consideration. So we will look at those minority views and incorporate it then in our report. Thank you very much. Is it the committee secretary who's going to be handling the report?
Correct, Chair. We need, if I may proceed, Chair.
You may.
Chair, we've, as a result of the decision on Wednesday, parties were requested to submit minority views for consideration by the committee today, and we have received minority views expressed by the Freedom Front Plus, the Democratic Alliance, and the Economic Freedom Fighters. Chair, I'll just ask Ms. Mutalani to share, Chair, so we capture the essence. Chair, what we have done, like we've done with all our reports, is that we, in essence, submit the submission from the Freedom Front Plus and capture in red the way we captured the position and whether the party is satisfied that how we captured it reflects correctly what they intend saying, Chair. So we have from the Freedom Front Plus the position submitted on top in black by the Freedom Front Plus, and below we captured it in red, and whether the Freedom Front is satisfied that we accurately capture the essence of what they.
Can you just read through it for the meeting?
I will do from the front. Shall I read a portion in red or from the top, Chair, which includes the EFF's position?
In red. In red only because the documents were circulated.
No problem, Chair. The Freedom Front Plus was of the view that the bill is fundamentally flawed and that a clause-by-clause consideration of amendments to address the prison reservation would not enhance the bill further. In light of the above, it had recommended that the committee should have opted to apply Rule 2033C, recommending to the House that it should rescind its previous decision to pass the bill and reject the bill.
Thank you. Continue.
Then we go down, Chair. The Freedom Front Plus was concerned that although it's not a legislative prescript, the socio-economic impact assessment study of the copyright exceptions in Section 12A, 12B, 12C, 12D, 9B, 9C, and 19D, as well as the other new provisions in the bill, was not conducted before the bill was adopted. Go down, Seconder. The Freedom Front Plus disagrees with the committee that the consultation periods was sufficient and is the view that the periods which they view as too short given the complex nature of the bill inhibited members of the public to comment. It expressed a concern that the bill may face a constitutional court challenge in this regard. Those are the inputs of.
Can I just check, are there two inputs from the Freedom Front Plus?
There are three.
What was the first one you read?
Just go up on top. It relates to that the bill is fundamentally flawed and that the committee should have considered to apply Rule 2033C, recommending to the House that it should rescind its previous decision to pass the bill and reject the bill.
Okay, so they have two inputs.
They have three inputs, Chair, and they need to indicate.
Okay.
Yeah, and they need to indicate that we captured the inputs.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Okay, I'm with you now. Okay. Honourable Mulder.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Yes, I would congratulate Andre. Next time I would ask him to write the minority opinion on behalf of the Freedom Front Plus. It is in order. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Okay, proceed.
Chair, then we'll proceed to the Democratic Alliance, Chair, and we captured, if we go further down, the essence of the concerns that were raised. The Democratic Alliance was concerned that although it's not a legislative prescript, the socioeconomic impact assessment study of the copyright exceptions in Section 12A, 12B, 12C, 12D, 19B, 19C, and 19D, as well as the other new provisions in the bill, was not conducted before the bill was adopted. Let's go down. Academics provided training to the committee in order to enhance members' understanding of copyright law. The committee also considered inputs from all academics who made submissions during the call for comments. The Democratic Alliance was, however, of the view that the committee relied too much on the department and a specific group of academics during the process and raised this as a concern. The Democratic Alliance was of the view that the communication from stakeholders received after the period for submissions on the bills were closed was withheld was a concern. The matters raised in the communication were not new and served before the committee already. The Democratic Alliance expressed a concern that parties were not given sufficient opportunity to make submissions with regard to the options available to the committee, as expressed in Rule 2033C, which would have allowed the committee to recommend to the House that it should rescind its previous decision to pass the bill and reject the bill. The committee did consider a discussion on and proposal to proceed under paragraph C, as well as a proposal to proceed under paragraph B, which allows for the bill to be amended. The committee voted to amend the bill and not to reject it. Those are the matters captured by the Democratic Alliance, Chair, that we captured.
Thank you. Honourable McPherson.
Thanks so much. Certainly, if Andre chooses to or Ms. Sheldon decides to leave the employ of Parliament, they're going to make wonderful writers. But I'd just like to go up to the point, if you can just scroll up, please, whoever's dealing with it, thanks. No, down. Yes. No, just further down. Okay, stop there. This is the point here, and this is where I disagree. Where the last line that says the matters raised in the communications were not new and served before the committee reading. That is not true, and that needs to be removed. The point is this, is that there were subsequent new letters that had been written to the chairperson that were then only provided to the committee after the clause-by-clause reading and voting took place. And that is the essence of that point, that there were new issues raised, new letters that had been provided to the chairperson's office that were not made available to the committee and were then only done so after the voting took place. So with respect, that line is not factually true, the last one, and needs to be removed. And I'm then happy with how that has captured. But also, I think that, again, I mean, when it says the DA was of the view that communication shall received after the period for submissions and the bills was closed was held was a concern. Again, that's not the point that I'm making. I said the withholding of communication to the chairperson with respect to the bill, which was only released after the clause-by-clause voting, that is the factual point that is not captured in those three lines. And I think that needs to be corrected because that is an important process point that needs to be dealt with. So I don't know, Chair, if you want to just allow Sheldon just to say, I think call him Sheldon. I've only ever known as Sheldon. If she wants to just reformulate that, and then we can come back to it.
Yeah, I think we can reformulate it now and just insert the word the Democratic Alliance was of the view that communication from stakeholders to the chairperson.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. And was withheld was a concern as this was only made available after the clause-by-clause reading.
Is that factual, Committee Secretary? When was it circulated to members?
We circulated it after the meeting that was on Wednesday, Chair. So
okay, and then you must remove the last sentence.
That should be fine, Chair.
Yeah. Thank you. Is that it, Honourable McPherson?
Thanks, Chair. I think that's sufficient.
Okay.
Chair, that's fine. We will then make sure that we capture it accurately, Chair. Chair, then we just give me a sec, Seconda, just to complete that. Maybe we can go down to the EFF. I do not know if the Dr. Chwaku is on the platform, but just go down in red. We capture in essence what
I'm here. I'm not going anywhere.
Yeah, thank you. The economic freedom fighters was of the view that the deletion of the retrospectivity clause from the bill would result in the continuation of the exploitation of artists, singers, and performers, guaranteeing that they would continue to live in poverty and die as paupers. The committee is making a recommendation in this report requiring urgent action by the minister to ensure the plight of paupers are raised by the EFF is addressed. The EFF also expressed concern at the process being limited by the committee in terms of Joint Rule 203.
Okay, Dr. Chwaku.
Hello, Chair. Good morning. I don't think that it's. I think I'm just going into it's not Captured 100%.
Okay, then you must point out the sections and then propose summarized wording.
No, I didn't. I did not make a recommendation that the committee the committee is making a recommendation. It is requiring an urgent action by the minister. I just want to, I didn't say that. It's not on my input.
Chair, if I may?
Yes.
We just, in relation to what Dr. Swaka was saying, we were saying that the committee is making a recommendation, not the EFF, to address his concerns.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In the report that will ultimately be before the committee on the copyright.
Sorry, I don't
Okay, but
understand.
I think then that must be captured after the last sentence, after joint rule 203.
Yeah.
It mustn't be part, yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, Chair. You create confusion.
And also I said, yeah, no, I didn't say that. The committee, yeah, I didn't say it myself, yeah, and my input. It's not my input.
Yes,
and then I said that also the copyright legislation is very technical. And the only time the PC engage in the sector, yeah, there's that paragraph, Andre, that I did at the beginning.
We can go up to the paragraph that we have your exact wording is there. We can.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. The problem is inside. The co-intention was okay. One of the co-intention of the amendments. Yeah, because I think that is to salvage it is from the White League. Okay, just go down. Let's see, okay. Can I just, okay, let me try before considering committing the treaties law, okay. All right, then go down. You just put them artists and singers. Yeah, okay, no thanks. Sorry, Chair. Can I just add like one thing?
Go ahead.
Yeah, the one that I think that we should actually add there that I wanted to add was the issue that the on the actor parts, the actors, this bill does not actually address adequately the plight of the actors.
But is it in the body of your input? Because we can't put something that's not in the body of your input.
Yeah, I actually got that late anyway. But can I just add one sentence? Okay? But
can I just check?
Okay, Mr. Dr. Chwaku can make that because he's part of the process, Chair. So he can.
Okay, so let's add that sentence.
Oh, Chair. No. Yeah, man.
Don't worry, I'm allowing you. I didn't suppress you. Please add your sentence.
Okay. This bill, I wanted to saying that. Let me just get my thing is here. Sorry, it's just actually I think one sentence. It's not quite a lot on that one, Chair. Okay, this bill, Chair, and one thing is that it's not addressing the plight of the actors because currently the actors are not earning the royalties. And also this bill is not actually taking into the fact that trying to correct the injustice of the past, that mainly the actors are being taken as freelancers as not as part of the workers. So this bill does not actually include that. And the last one is to say that this bill also is not actually enabling the creation of the collecting, society, so that they are able to correct that, to be able to to collect, the royalties. So I think those are the key ones that this bill is there. So we have a disappointment, a very huge disappointment in the acting industry because of those points that are not actually, captured. I think those are the only 3 points I can add.
Can we just work out that wording?
We can, for the last, the bill doesn't adequately address the plight of actors, current actors which are not earning royalties. We will fix that. Then the last, did you want clarity on the last matter that Dr. Twaku raised? If we can just give the wording.
Okay, the other one is that this bill does not address it does not actually correct or address the fact that the workers, are actually not freelancers. They are workers, so they are not captured. They are not, protected by the Labor Act. So they can't do any negotiations, and if they've been treated unfairly. And then the other one, the bill does not correct. No, the bill does not correct the fact that the freelancers, the actors are free. Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. And then the last one is to saying that the bill actually also falls short in terms of enabling the creation of the collecting society, of enabling the establishment, the establishment of a collection society. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I think, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Twaku.
Thank you.
Mr. Hermans.
Chair, we have now gone through the presentations made by all parties, and all parties has agreed and made necessary corrections to what was put before them. Chair, can I ask that we adjourn for 15 minutes so that we can capture the essence of this in the report itself, in both reports, and then return back in 20 minutes, Chair? So that so that when we flag the report, it capture accurately what is being said submitted by members. If we can have that time, just to quickly do so, Chair. And then we.
Okay, so we will reconvene at 22.
22. Hopefully we will be ready then. Chair.
22:09.
Yes, Chair. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Don't leave the platform, members.
Today, Chair?
Yes, today.
Thank you.
On the report.
Okay.
Recording stopped.
Yes,
totality?
please.
Okay.
Yes.
Chair, this is the second report of the Portfolio Committee on Trade and Industry on the present reservations regarding the Copyright Amendment Bill dated 10th of June. The Portfolio Committee on Trade and Industry, having considered the Copyright Amendment Bill, Bill 13B, retagged as a Section 76 bill, and following its reports to the National Assembly on how we intend to address the reservations on the constitutionality thereof, reports as follows. The Copyright Bill seeks to amend the Copyright Act of 1978 so as to refine certain words and expressions to allow for further limitations, exceptions regarding the reproduction of copyright works, to provide for the sharing of royalties in copyright works, to provide for payment of royalties in respect of literary, musical, artistic, and audiovisual work, to provide for resale, royal rights, to provide for recordal and reporting of certain acts, to provide for the accreditation of collecting societies, to provide for a mechanism for settlement of disputes, to provide for access to copyright work by persons with disabilities, to provide for licensing of orphan works, to strengthen the powers and functions of the Copyright Bureau, to provide for prohibited conduct in respect of technological protection measures, to provide for prohibited conduct in respect of copyright management information, to provide for protection of digital rights, to provide for certain new offences, and to provide for matters connected therewith. The present reservation refer, among others, to the following: the fair use provisions as amended that have been put up for public comment. The copyright exceptions might constitute a reasonable grounds for constitutional challenges. The bill might not comply with international treaty obligations, specifically in relation to the World Intellectual Property Organization's WIPO Copyright Treaty, the WIPO Performance and Phonograms Treaty, and the Marrakesh Treaty, to facilitate access to published works for persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled. The process followed by the Committee on the Copyright Amendment Bill on June 2021, 1st June, the National Assembly adopted the committee report in which the committee outlined how it intended to correct any procedural defects. On the 4th of June 2021, the committee placed adverts in national and regional newspapers, inviting stakeholders and interested parties to submit written submissions with reference only to Clause 13 and Clause 20 of the Copyright Amendment Bill. The committee also invited stakeholders and parties to submit written submissions with reference to the alignment of the Copyright Amendment Bill with the obligations set out in international treaties. The committee received 91 submissions in this regard. Furthermore, preparation for public hearings, the committee held a workshop on 3rd and 4th of August to provide the new members of the committee with the conceptual framework of copyright and related rights, with a focus on the artist's resale royalty right in the Copyright Amendment Bill, and performance right for sound recordings and audiovisual works. The workshop also covered key theoretical concepts and practices in these areas, as well as in the international framework for protecting copyright and related rights. On 11 and 12 August 2021, the committee held public hearings to consider the submissions received in relation to the committee's call in respect of the present reservations. The submissions received from stakeholders on the present reservations were substantive in nature and raised a number of complex legal and policy matters for the committee and the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition to consider. This required careful consideration given the international reach and the impact on domestic constituency, as well as to ensure that the process was constitutionally sound. In light of the above, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition submitted a letter requesting that the department be afforded additional time to consider the complex legal and policy matters raised in the submissions in order to provide an informed response in line with the constitutional parameters of the process. On 11 and 12 November, the committee received a response with regard to the oral and written submission received in relation to the present reservation from the department and the Parliament's Constitution and Legal Services Office, respectively. On 16 November 21, informed by the input received from the Department and Parliament's Constitution and Legal Services Office and its deliberation, the committee determined it may be required to seek permission from the National Assembly to consider matters that fall outside the scope of the Amendment Bill. These matters would be permissible, notwithstanding the limitation of the process, as it was within the scope of the reservations pertaining to the alignment with international treaties. The committee resolved that members should be given an opportunity to consult their respective party caucus on these clauses before taking a final position in this regard. The additional clauses to be considered were as follows: new definitions related to personal copies, to exception for persons with a disability, and to broadcasting, and making the new exclusive rights of communication to the public, making available and distribution applicable to published editions and computer programs. On the 9th of November, the committee adopted its report seeking permission from the National Assembly in terms of Assembly Rule 2864C for it to amend other provisions of the Copyright Act 1978. Furthermore, the committee, informed by the subsequent deliberation, resolved on 30th November that, subject to the National Assembly granting committee permission to amend other provisions of the Copyright Act, it would advertise the new clauses as well as re-advertise some existing clauses on which material amendments were proposed and call for further submission in this regard. The additional provisions to be considered were as follows: new definition, authorized entity, broadcast and lawfully required. Clause 1, the definition of technological protection measures due to the inclusion of product and design and the deletion of paragraph B. The amended definition of technological protection measures, circumvention device or service. New clause, amendments to section 11A and 11B, making the new exclusive rights of communication to the public, making available and distribution applicable to published editions and computer programs. Clause 13, section 12A(d), new paragraph D, making the four factors in paragraph B applicable to exceptions in section 12B, 12C, 12D, 19B, and 19C. Section 12B(1)(c) and new 12B(2), providing for new provisions related to ethereal rights. Section 12B(3)(b), providing for the factors related to exceptions for personal copies to not apply to any other exceptions that permits a copy to be made. Section 12C and 12C2 and 12D(1)(b), C, and D, adding the wording of the three-step test as an additional factors against which the exception must be tested. Clause 12, section 20, section 19C4, the words commercial purposes are deleted as it is duplicating section 1. However, removing only those words provides a different meaning to the wording of subsection 4. Section 19D(3) and 4B, incorporating treaty wording in respect of importing or exporting accessible foreign copies. Clause 27, section 27(5)(a), 5(b), 5(c), new section 5(a) and (c), and amended subsection 5(b), providing for offences in respect of digital rights, technological protection measures, and copyright management information. And clause 33, section 39(2), new subsection 2, requiring the minister to make regulation providing for processes and formalities related to the authorization or recognition of an authorized entity. On the 1st of December, the National Assembly granted the committee permission to inquire amending other provisions of the Copyright Act. On the 4th of December, the committee placed adverts in national and regional newspapers, inviting stakeholders and interested parties to submit written submission with reference to the above mentioned provisions. The committee received 53 submissions in this regard. On the 6th of May, the committee received a response on the written submission received in relation to the additional provisions as captured above from the Department and Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Service Office, respectively. The committee continued with its deliberation on the 11th, 7th, 18th, and 25th of May 2022, considering the inputs and responses from the Department and Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Service Office to the additional clauses advertised. On a number of clauses, no consensus was reached. In this regard, the Democratic Alliance, Freedom Front, and African Christian Democratic Party objected to the amendment of the following clauses. Clause 1, the definitions of accessible form and copy, authorized entity, broadcast technological protection measures, and technological protection measures circumvention device. Clause 5, removal of retrospective provisions and related delegation to the minister. Clause 7, removal of retrospective provision and related delegation to the minister as well as gender neutral drafting. Clause 9, removal of retrospective provisions and related delegation to the minister. Clause 11, gender neutral drafting. New clause, amendment of section 11A and 11B on the rights in respective of published editions and computer programs to allow for digital works. Clause 13, copyright exception in relation to section 12A to 12D, clause 19, gender neutral drafting, clause 20, gender neutral drafting and amendments to section 12, 19 to 19D, clause 21, gender neutral drafting, clause 22, 23, 24, 25, gender neutral drafting, clause 27, offences in terms of communicating, making available technological protection measures and copyright management information, clause 29, prohibited conduct and exception in respect of technological protection measures and gender neutral drafting, clause 31, gender neutral drafting. Clause 33, section 39.2 regarding regulation in respect of recognizing entities in terms of persons with a disability and correction of a cross-reference, and clause 35, gender neutral drafting. Furthermore, the Economic Freedom Fighters objected to the following clauses. Clause 5, removal of retrospective provisions and related delegation to the Minister. Clause 7, removal of retrospective provisions and related delegation to the Minister as well as neutral drafting. And clause 9, removal of retrospective provision and related delegation to the Minister. The minority views were expressed as follows. The Democratic Alliance and the Freedom Plus were concerned that although it's not a legislative prescript, the socio-economic impact assessment study of the copyright exception in section 12, A, B, C, D, 19B, C, and D, as well as in other new clauses in the provision of the bill, was not conducted before the bill was adopted. Academics providing training to the committee in order to enhance members' understanding copyright. The committee also considered inputs from all academics who made submission during the call for comments. The Democratic Alliance was, however, of the view that the committee relied too much on the department and a specific group of academics during the process and raised this as a concern. The Democratic Alliance was of the view that the communication from stakeholders received after the submission of the bills were closed was withheld was a concern. The DA was of the view that communication with stakeholders to the chairperson was distributed to the committee after the clause by clause on the bill has been finalized. The Democratic Alliance expressed a concern that parties were not given sufficient opportunity to make submissions with regard to the options available to the committee, as agreed in Rule 2033C, which would have allowed the committee to recommend to the House that it should rescind its previous decision to pass the bill and reject the bill. The committee did consider discussion on and proposal to proceed under paragraph C, as well as a proposal to proceed under paragraph B, which allows for the bill to be amended. The committee voted to amend the bill and not to reject it. The Economic Freedom Fighters was of the view that the deletion of retrospectivity clause from the bill would result in the continuation of the exploitation of artists, singers, and performers, guaranteeing that they would continue to live in poverty and die as paupers. The bill doesn't adequately address the plight of actors. Currently, actors are not earning royalties. The bill doesn't correct the fact that actors are freelancers, not workers, hence not protected by the Labour Relations Act. Chair, then you will see the bill fall short of enabling establishment of the collecting societies. This is one of the verifications that we saw, and maybe I would just ask from the matter to express, give a view on that matter, Chair, if you so allow.
Okay, Advocate van der Merwe.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning to you and good morning to the members. Chair, Clause 27 of the Copyright Amendment Bill inserts a Chapter 1A into the Act. It is headed Collecting Societies, and it provides for accreditation of collecting societies. And then I specifically want to point out one subsection, 22B, subsection 6, provides that if there is no collecting society for a right, the Commission may provide such assistance as may be necessary to assist in the formation of a collecting society. So in fact, the bill provides not only for the accreditation of existing societies, the accreditation and registration of new societies, but even for the Commission to step in where there isn't a collecting society and there is a need for one, to assist and to make sure that that is in fact accredited through the process provided in this bill. So Chair, definitely there is a provision. It's a whole chapter. It starts off with accreditation of collecting societies, administration of rights. So in other words, it also prescribes how collecting societies should go about their business, what their controlling mechanisms may be, and respect of their relationship with authors, performers, and copyright owners. It requires them to submit returns and reports, and it even allows for, if there is a problem or a concern, that their accreditation may be suspended or cancelled. So the bill is quite extensive. It's a whole new chapter that is inserted into the Act on collecting societies. Thank you, Chair.
Chair, hence that
Continue.
will be removed. The Economic Freedom Fighters also expressed concern at the process being limited by the committee in terms of Joint Rule 203. The Freedom Front Plus was of the view that the bill is fundamentally flawed and that the clause-by-clause consideration of amendments to address the present reservations would not enhance the bill further. In light of the above, it had recommended that the committee should have opted to apply Rule 203C, recommending to the House that it should rescind its previous decision to pass the bill and reject the bill. The Freedom Front Plus was concerned that, although it's not a legislative prescript, I've that already done, Chair, so I'll not repeat that on top. And the Freedom Front Plus disagrees with the committee that the consultation period was sufficient and is of the view that the period which they view as too short given the complex nature of the bill inhibit the members of the public to comment. It expressed a concern that the bill may face a constitutional court challenge in this regard. Recommendation: the Portfolio Committee of Trade and Industry recommends that the House adopts this report and approves the second reading of the bill, Bill 13C 2017. Report to be considered. Chair.
Thank you very much. Can I then just check with the Portfolio Committee? We need a move and a second, am I correct, Committee Secretary?
That's correct, Chair.
Okay. So that is the report. Can I just ask for a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the report? Honorable Mbuyane.
Sorry, Chair, I'm trying to raise my hand. I can't.
Okay, Dr. Tswaku.
No, thank you very much. I thought, Chair, maybe we'll get an opportunity because we are reading this whole document to saying that what are we, our views and all of that. Because sorry, Chair. Because there are some in my points there. I've got a couple of comments here on the report. So I don't know if maybe I can make those comments.
Chair?
Yes.
Chair, the comments of I don't know if it's new comments, but the comments of Dr. Tswaku is captured in the report in terms of as part of the minority views. It is in the report that he raised this morning.
So sorry, Chair. It's just that it's the content of the report itself. There are things which are missing on the report.
I'll allow you.
Yeah, because
when you go into the section of the so yes, Chair. If you go on the section, there's a section that says the DA said this, FF Plus said that, but it's not actually captured in terms of the reservations of the EFF. In terms of it looks as if I've agreed with all what was said. So what is it that you want us to capture, Dr. Tswaku?
I wanted to craft it in a way to saying that no, there was a clause, there was a sentence there that says it's up somewhere up there. Sorry, the DA said this were consent, although there was. I'm just looking for that point.
Chair,
there.
If I might just assist quickly, if you go up to the Economic Freedom Fighters, to where you had it.
And then I don't know why is that the bill falls short of enable. Why is actually that being actually taken off? I don't know why.
Because it's incorrect, that statement. The advocate just told us what the bill does allow for in terms of the amended bill. So it's factually
I disagree
incorrect.
with her. I vehemently disagree with her because according to us, according to me, my views is that it does not. And then we look at the president. We must actually state it categorically at the beginning there. the reservations of the president. You must state it, up there where it says that the president had a problem with the fair use and the treaty and all of that. Up there, I think it's one of the first things there. We need to add also that the president, we should say that Cyril had a problem also, number 4, of the retrospection. We must capture that here, his reservation right at the beginning, because this point is saying that what he did not have. So we must capture it here at the beginning. One of his problems was the retrospection clause. I think one of those ones, I mean, obviously there are more, but also I don't know why these ones are just captured fair use and all of that. But the one that is very important also is that the capturing of, so we need to put that as well. It was one of the reservations.
Chair?
Okay, but these are not, it says amongst others. Can we just have clarity on that point, Committee Secretary?
Chair, the committee submitted 2 reports to the House, where one they indicated that speaks to the retrospectivity clause, Chair. So there was 2 reports already tabled in that regard, and where the committee indicated in that report to Parliament, adopted by Parliament, that the committee will consider those things. So this is a second report of the committee on that matter. So it was captured in previous reports already, Chair. If Advocate van der Merwe can maybe comment as well. But it was captured, the retrospectivity matter, to that, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Tswaku. I think we have given you enough time. Okay, now I have a few hands. Now let me go through my list.
Chair, I just want to I might be able to assist, if I may.
Okay,
I
proceed.
think the point of a committee report is to capture whether the discussion, whether we agree with it or not, is a fair and accurate reflection of what has taken place. It is not. It has never been a document to debate ideology, as the former chair would have said. We leave the colourful language for the House. But this is essentially a report, whether you agree or disagree with the bill, as to whether, in fact, it actually accurately captures the process that has taken place to get to this point. And I think that that's an important point that we need to consider as members, that we'll go and we'll, have the ideological debates in the House. But does this accurately capture the process that has taken place and the procedure that has taken place to get to this point? That might just assist us in the way forward. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much. Honourable Mbuyane.
Chairperson, thank you very much. I did not understand exactly what the Honourable wanted to say, because everything is captured here. And we had a process as well before. I think he was not well briefed by the former member, because this process, the second process from where we were in terms of the submission. And also the reservation in terms of the retrospective, we had a decision at the committee level on the 12th of May 2021 to say when we delete the retrospective, we urge the minister and the executive to identify a possible mechanism to compensate artists and performers who were exploited in the past, because in terms of the constitution, the retrospective is not allowed. Then we also agreed with all the parties that are there, the DA and SAS and EFF, to say, yes, it is feasible to establish another levy of some sort, that the minister must talk to the treasurer in bringing the fresh bill into committee to introduce a levy to address and compensate the exploitation of the past in the future. So I just wanted to elaborate on that one. And also, as you called us, Chair, you wanted us to agree in terms of the bill. I just look in terms of the numbering. if you can check the bill in terms of the numbering, the Secretariat must just correct the numbering, and therefore I propose that we continue and adopt the bill. Thank you very much. The report. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Honorable Malamacha.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think we must be very much mindful of what we are doing and what we are deployed here for. On Wednesday, when we agreed to agenda to come and meet here, it was purely to deal with the submission that the other parties have requested to submit. We gave that particular moment for them to do so. Still, they've done, though, there are those who still want to bring something outside the submission. I think what we must consider must be only what has been submitted as per the agreement, rather to want to start things afresh and just delay this, as if we don't know what it bears for the lives of the poor and the poorest, in particular those who were not given an opportunity due to the bill which was not pro-poor. Therefore, I'm saying, Comrade Chair, it is high time that we agree on what we've agreed and proceed and make sure this thing passes so that it benefits the people outside there. Thank you, Chair.
You are not seconding the adoption of the report. Honorable Burns Ngamashi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Mine, firstly, let me second the adoption of the report. And secondly, I would allay the concerns of Honorable Dr. Tswako, that, look, the issue about retrospectivity is a doctrinal issue. It's a legal doctrine, which is not only a South African doctrinal issue. I mean, it's an international principle that when you enact a legislation, to the extent that it will not impair the content, then such retrospective issue can be considered. But where there are material issues, then it's not permissible. It's a doctrinal issue. I'm sure Advocate Father Merve has been saying this time and time, almost quite several times. However, as a committee, we did, as Honorable Mbuyane said, we did agree that a different mechanism to address the plight of the originators of the work must be done, because it is part of redress, it's part of transformation, which I think is the key concern by Honorable Doc. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So the report has been moved and seconded for adoption.
Those who are on the
Sorry, Chair.
must serve as our protectors
Chair,
so that we participate.
Any hands?
Sorry, Chair.
Proceed, please, Committee Secretary.
Mr. McPherson, Chair.
Oh, okay, I didn't see the hand. Honorable McPherson, my apologies.
Thanks,
Sorry,
thanks,
Chair.
Chair.
I'm having a problem of raising my hand too. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. I note you, Honorable Tswako. And proceed, Honorable McPherson.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to say on behalf of the Democratic Alliance that we believe the report is a fair and accurate reflection of the process to date. Despite of our belief that the bill is fatally flawed, we believe that the report is accurate, and so we support the report, but that should not be misinterpreted as a support for the bill. That discussion will be had in the House, but we support that the report is an accurate reflection today. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Dr. Tswako.
Thank you very much, Chair. Please note the abstention of the EFF.
Thank you, Honorable Mulder.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Freedom Front will also support the report. That's not the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that deals with all the hands. Proceed, Committee Secretary, to the Performance Protection Amendment Bill.
Thank you, Chair. I'll just also conduct to flight it, Chair.
Business as usual.
Chair, we need to, I think Dr. Chwaku audio.
Yeah, sorry, we've got the CRC joining our meeting, curiously.
Yes, please mute Dr. Swaku.
How do you serve in a
Okay, proceed.
Chair, the second report of the Portfolio Committee on Trade and Industry on the President's Reservation on the Performance Protection Amendment Bill, dated 10th of June. The Portfolio Committee on Trade and Industry, having reconsidered the Performance Protection Amendment Bill, retagged the Section 76 Bill, and following its report to the National Assembly on how it intended to address the President's reservations on the constitutionality thereof, reports as follows. The bill seeks to amend the Performance Protection Act 1967 so as to insert, delete, or substitute certain definitions, to provide for performance economic rights, to extend moral rights to performers in audiovisual fixation, to provide for transfer of rights where a performer consents to fixation of a performance, to provide for the protection of rights of producers and sound recordings, to broaden restrictions on the use of performances, to extend the application of restrictions on the use of performances to audiovisual fixation, to provide for royalties or equitable remuneration to be payable when the performance is sold or rented out, to provide for recordal and reporting of certain acts, and to provide for an offence in relation thereto, to extend exceptions from prohibitions to audiovisual fixation and sound recordings, and include exceptions provided for the Copyright Act, to provide them for the Minister to prescribe compulsory and standard contractual terms as well as guidelines for performer to grant consent under this Act, to provide for the prohibited conduct and exceptions in respect of technological protections and measures and copyright management of information respectively, to provide for further offences and penalties, to substitute certain expressions, provide for transitional provisions, and to provide for matters connected therewith. The present reservations referred, among others, that the bill may not comply with international treaties, obligations specifically in relation to the World Intellectual Property Organization Performance and Phonograms Treaty. On the process followed on the 1st of June, the National Assembly adopted the committee report in which the committee outlined how it intended to correct any procedural defects. On 4th of June, the committee placed adverts in national and regional newspapers inviting stakeholders and interested parties to submit written submission with reference to the alignment of the Performance Protection Amendment Bill with the obligations set out in international treaties. The committee received 91 submissions in this regard. Furthermore, in preparation for the public hearings, the workshop on 3rd and 4th August were held to provide members of the committee with a conceptual framework of copyright and related rights. One of the focus areas was in respect of performance rights in respect of sound, recording, and audiovisual works. The workshop also covered key theoretical concepts and practices in these areas, as well as the international framework for protecting copyright and related rights. On the 11th and 12th August, the committee held public hearing to consider the submissions received in relation to the committee's call in respect of the present reservation. The submissions received from stakeholders on the present reservation were substantive in nature and raised a number of complex legal and policy matters for the committee and the Department of Trade and Industry and Competition to consider. It's required careful consideration given their national reach and the impact on domestic contingencies, as well as to ensure that the process going forward was constitutionally sound. In light of the above, the Minister of Trade, Industry and Competition submitted a letter requesting that the department be afforded additional time to consider the company's legal and policy matters raised in the submission in order to provide an informed response in line with the constitutional parameters of the process. On 11 and 12 November 21, the committee received a response with regard to the oral and written submission received in relation to the reservation from the Department and Parliament's Constitution and Legal Service Office, respectively. On the 19th November, the committee adopted a report seeking permission from the National Assembly in terms of Rule 2864C for it to amend other provisions of the Copyright Act. A certain clauses of the Performance Protection Bill are subject to the promulgation of the Copyright Act. The committee agreed it will consider both simultaneously. Thus, the consideration of the Performance Protection Amendment was subject to the conclusion of the process with respect to the Copyright Amendment Bill. On 1st December 2021, the National Assembly granted the committee permission to inquire into many other provisions of the Copyright Act. On the 4th December, the committee placed adverts in national and regional newspapers, inviting stakeholders and interest parties to submit written submissions on the additional provisions regarding to the Copyright Act. The committee received 53 submissions in this regard. On 6th of May, the committee received a response with regard to these written submissions received from the Department of Constitutional and Legal Services Office, respectively. The committee continued with its deliberations on the 11th, 17th, 18th, 25th of May, considering the inputs and responses from the Department and Parliament's Constitutional and Legal Services Office to the additional clauses advertised. On the 8th of May, the committee formally considered the amendments to the performance protection as a result of the President's resolution. On the number of clauses, there has been no consensus reached. In this regard, the Democratic Alliance of Freedom from Plus and the ACDP objected to the amendment of the following clauses. Clause 2, general neutral drafting. Clause 3, remuneration in terms of performance in relation to audiovisual works and sound recordings, as well as gender neutral drafting. Clause 4, Clause 5, gender neutral drafting. Clause 6, correcting a typographical error. Clause 7, removal of reference to the Electronic Communications and Transaction Act with gender drafting. Minority's views were expressed as follows. The Democratic Alliance is concerned that party has given sufficient time to make submissions with regard to the options available to the committee as expressed in Rule 23(3)(c), which have allowed the committee to recommend the House that it should be rescind its previous decision to pass the bill and reject the bill. The committee did consider a discussion on and proposal to proceed under paragraph C, as well as the proposal to proceed under paragraph B, which allow for the bill to be amended. The committee voted to amend the bill and not reject it. The Freedom Plus was of the view that the bill is fundamentally flawed and that the clause-by-clause consideration of the amendments to address the reservations would not enhance the bill further. In light of the debate, it recommended that the committee should have opted to apply for Rule 2033(c), recommending to the House that it should rescind its previous decision to pass the bill and reject the bill. The Freedom Plus disagree with the committee that the consultation periods were sufficient and is of the view that the periods which they view as too short given the complex nature of the bill inhibited members of the public to comment. Expressed a concern that the bill may face a constitutional challenge in this regard. Economic freedom fighters expressed concern on the process being limited by the committee in terms of Rule 203. The committee freedom fighters were also the view that the bill doesn't adequately address the plight of actors, as currently actors are not earning royalties. Furthermore, that this bill doesn't correct the fact that actors are freelancers and not working, hence they are not protected by the Labor Relations Act. The recommendation, the Committee on Trade and Industry recommends that the House adopts this report and approves second reading of the Bill 324C report to be considered.
Thank you. I see Honourable McPherson, your hand is still up. Can we have a mover and a seconder for the adoption of the report of the Performance Protection Bill Amendment? The Performance Protection Amendment Bill. Honourable Mbuyane.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. I move for the adoption of the report as amended, the Performance Protection Amendment Bill, a report on the 10th June 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honourable Motaung.
Thanks, Chair, for the opportunity. I second the adoption of the report.
Thank you very much. Any other hands?
Yes, Madam
Honourable
Chairperson.
Swaku. Yes, Doctor.
Chair, just please note the abstention of the Economic Freedom Fighters.
Thank you very much.
Chairperson?
Honourable McPherson.
Yeah, Chair, please just note the DA supports the report. It's a fair and accurate reflection of the process so far, but does not intimate our support for the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honourable Mulder.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and the same for the Freedom from Plus. Support of the report, but not the bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the bills are adopted with those statements made by...
So the reports are adopted, not the bills.
Sorry, yeah, not the bills, the reports. Thank you for that correction. the rest of the agenda.
Chair,
This
that conclude the business of the day, Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you to all members of this committee, and thank you to everybody who has joined us on the platform. The meeting stands adjourned.
Recording stopped.
Long live the chair. Long live chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Long live the chair, long live.
Chair.
Thank you, Chairperson.